Strap in. This is it. Episode number 183 of NoLaughTrack podcast. My name is Justin Severson. I'm lucky enough to host this thing for Acme Comedy Company. Thank you, Circle of Heat, as always, for letting us play your music there at the beginning. My guest this week, it's the first time he's been here solo with me on the show. He was here in 2015. I think it was April. We did a show with Kostaki Economopoulos. He is not here this week, but Ross Bennett is. Hi, Ross.
Hello, Justin. I was playing Risk on I have a Risk phone app.
Yeah.
The game Risk.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a teenager in high school, you know, a bunch of them get together, play a game of Risk for like a whole night.
Uh-huh.
You know, take like 3 hours and just six guys and you can actually I can burn through a game of Risk in about 12 minutes.
That used to
take 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you know, in 12 minutes I know whether I've conquered the world or I've been crushed in defeat. And when you get crushed in defeat, they go to a silhouette of a soldier falling to his knees, and in the background you see the field of battle, falling to his knees with his hands up in the air like, oh God, why?
Wow.
What now?
That's dramatic.
Why?
How dramatic. I have to point out right now that this is the second week in a row that someone has brought up the game Risk on this podcast.
Oh, really?
How is that? I don't think it's been brought up in, like I said, this is 183 episodes. I think it's been brought up twice, and it's today and last week.
My son has this whole theory about, you know, just the synchronicity at different things in life. And that basically this is now the time to buy the lottery ticket.
Right?
But this morning I did a radio show, and I brought up Freddie Prinze.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, this is so weird. He goes, this is the first time Freddie Prinze has ever been brought up on the show, and it happened twice today.
Wow.
Me and the previous guest.
Yeah,
What are the chances?
That is so weird. So should we go buy lottery tickets?
Definitely.
Yeah. It is $1.3 billion today.
But you know, after taxes.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I haven't bought a lottery ticket now for a few years because it's just so easy for me to get sucked into the addictive nature of gambling and lottery tickets and stuff like that. Because when is one ticket too many and 100 is not enough?
Correct.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I may just to be part of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, $1.5 billion.
Yeah. You know,
you win that kind of money, and you could actually, after you get it, you go by Seinfeld's house.
Yeah.
And you go, you know, you're just a piker. You know, you're a wannabe.
Yeah. I saw a list this morning of the things you could buy. You could buy, if you win the whole total today, solo, you could buy 2 cheeseburgers for everyone in America from McDonald's. I saw that. You could buy the Pittsburgh Steelers football team.
Wow.
Yeah. Not both. One or the other. I think I'd go with the football team.
Pittsburgh, what's that?
Pittsburgh Steelers are less expensive than the money that you would win from the lottery tonight.
Okay, but you say which one would you get? You say not both. What do you mean not both?
Oh, you know, like because you would blow most of the money on buying that. You wouldn't have money left over to buy cheeseburgers for everyone.
You can't do. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. And I haven't bought one yet because it's astronomical chances to win, but obviously the game Risk has brought it back into my mind, and now I think I'm going to. But you know what? When you end up buying them, I've bought them in the past, and I'm so confident that I didn't win. It's like a week later, and then I'll check the numbers. Like, oh yeah,
I wasn't
even close.
I believe that what the positive side of lotteries. I won't get into the negative side. Okay. But the positive side of lotteries is for $1 or $2. What you are buying is a period of time where you can have the fantasy of what would I do if. That's what you're really buying.
True.
For $2.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowing yourself 2, 3, 4 days to just have that moment where, you know, This would be what would this be like?
Yeah, I was working at the Wild game last night, and one of my coworkers was like, "Well, today's my last game," and I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Powerball, man." He goes, "And you're one of the guys I like." So he goes, I'll even give you some. You're one of the guys I like." I went, "Oh, okay, great. Good luck."
Yeah, let's see what happens on that one.
I have a feeling I'm going to see you at the next game on Friday, but maybe not. I wish you luck. What would you do? You have any fantasies of what you would do with that money?
I just bought a house.
Okay.
I would pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is a fantasy. Make
all the improvements on it. And then sell it and buy the house I really want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's top of the list. That's exactly what I would do. Just, get out and then I would have a conversation with some sort of a broker. Because I don't want to be broker. And then I would have to make the list of people who I would want to give money to.
Yeah.
In my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah, you'd have to.
See, the thing is, if I was to win the lottery, I couldn't do this anymore.
No.
I could never walk on stage without that being the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You'd never be able to walk on stage publicly. I mean, Seinfeld is worth $800 million, but he earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And people know he earned it, and he has an audience of people who largely respect the fact that he earned it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not having people shout out, "Hey, give me $1 million." But
right.
if you won $1 billion, you couldn't go any place without people saying, "Hey, can you give me $1 million?"
Right, because they think, why does he deserve it? We all deserve it. You become their potential source of income. Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're just simply doing what they need to do to try and make a living, and part of their job is asking people with a lot of money from a lottery to give them money with the thought that some of them will do it.
Yeah.
It's like in the movie Batman when Robert Wall first meets Bruce Wayne and he says, "Hey, how about some money for a project?" And Bruce Wayne laughs. And then when it's all done, Bruce Wayne leaves and he tells Alfred, "And hook him up with so-and-so for such and such."
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It worked for him.
Yeah.
He asked every billionaire he met for that, and one of them paid off.
So maybe that's the key. Just keep asking.
Well, I was never this bold sexually, okay? But there was a guy who's subsequently dead, John Cantu, and he ran the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco in the 70s and the early 80s, and he would stand out front, and every woman that went by during the day, he's working the place during the day, he'd say, "Do you want to blank? Do you want to blank? Do you want to blank?" And about 1 out of 15 would say yes. So this guy basically blanked on a daily basis. Simply because he was playing the numbers.
I read a statistic probably 10 years ago, and it has definitely stuck with me. It wasn't the guy you're talking about, but I don't know where the study came from, but it was very similar in that, and they said it was 1 out of 20. That if you ask 20 people, "Do you want to roll in the hay?" that at least one will say yes out of those 20. So just keep asking.
And it requires... what you basically have to be a salesman.
Yeah.
You are then doing a cold call. And if you're a salesman doing cold calls, you have to accept the phones hanging up, the net, all that kind of stuff. And you can't have that bother you.
Yeah.
Okay. But I can't do that because I feel it.
Yeah.
I can't do cold calls because it hurts so much. It hurts so much when they say no. I even the time beforehand worried about what they're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Rejection to me is just so painful, and which is in terms and in this particular career, it has been. I think it might give me what is my, if you will, if I have any kind of vulnerability on stage, any kind of emotional gravitas, something that's actually there.
Uh-huh.
That might be it, because I do feel okay. However, it makes it so I can be very trepidatious on new material. The things being different, it's very challenging for me.
Sure.
And auditions always just killed me.
Yeah.
Just killed me. The thought of being rejected.
Do you do much any auditions anymore?
Not a lot. No. I mean, it's basically everybody who was ever going to say no to me saw me and said no. And the few people who said yes, they booked me for their comedy clubs.
Yeah. This kind of ties in with why you were here in April, was the Crash and Burn. Were you doing 20 minutes? For people who don't know, I'll just refresh your memory. Crash and Burn, it's Tim Slagle has put that together, who, by the way, is featuring this week at Acme for you. And
which is unusual. He normally headlines.
He's the headliner. He's been headlining here for a long time.
But he's he and I are very good friends. And he wanted to come up and do this.
Yeah,
it was very nice of him to do this.
That makes a great show. But so you were here doing the Crash and Burn last year, and that's basically working on 20 minutes, trying to come up with 20 minutes of new material in a week. In what, 7 shows? In 7 shows, coming up with 20 minutes. How did that? Looking back now that that's over, how did that go?
First off, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for Tim Slagle.
Okay.
Because he had recommended me to the owner here, to the booker. And a number of years ago, and nothing really came out of it. And then Tim asked me to do Crash and Burn because he thought I'd be good on it.
Yeah.
And he's been very supportive of me and what I do. And from Crash and Burn, the owner did finally get to really see me do what I do. And because of that, I was invited to come and work this week. So,
awesome.
Tim is, he's gold in my book.
Yeah.
What it was like, it was a little easier to do new material and to do that because people were expecting not all the material to work. They were expecting the creative process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cause Minneapolis is like is a one-off in terms of, stand-up comedy creative communities around the country, in that you're very hip and supportive of the whole stand-up thing here. You know, I was here on Monday night, New Talent Night.
Oh, you were?
Open mic.
Good for you.
You had 24 people at open mic.
And no empty seats in here,
and not an empty seat in the house.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. So, I mean, this is, for those of you who are part of this scene here, either as an appreciator of stand-up comedy or a participant, it's a very special place.
Yeah. Really lucky.
So, I came and I would like to think that, one of the reasons Jerry Seinfeld is so successful is how seriously he took his job. And as I understand it, when he first started doing it around 1975 in New York City, he spent 4 years writing 4 or 5 hours a day and developing this act that around 1979, 1980, he took out to Los Angeles, to the Tonight Show. And, so he spent like this time honing 90 minutes of, tremendous material. I've never had that amount of discipline. I do write some new material, but not as tenaciously as that man does. And so I had a bunch of notes here and there that I brought with me, and I put them together with some other ideas that I had, and that's what I worked on that week.
Okay.
Some things worked, some things didn't. Some things worked once and then didn't again, which is that's the one that hurts the most.
I bet.
When you have an idea, you do it, it kills, and then after that, nothing. And because I'm one of those comics who, I always felt with Robin Williams, if you watched Robin, one of the geniuses, 'cause I got to watch him a number of times, in successive nights, like at the Comedy Store and the like. One of his most remarkable things was that he could take material, and he did a lot of material. A lot of what he did was material, but he made it seem he presented it in a manner that made you think that it was being improvised.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Also, he could actually improvise, but deliver it with a confidence that made you think it was material. Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
Which is, it was just fascinating to watch, you know, what he was doing. Well, for me, it's the other way. You know, I tend to, if I've written a piece of material, I don't get behind it until after a few nights when people have laughed at it and told me that it's funny. Because there's nothing worse than like, it's like, hey, I'm really great, aren't I? No, I guess not. I was like, that's really funny, isn't it? That's really funny. No, not funny. Okay, not funny. Okay. The, and you know, I come from just such a place of shame when I perform, you know, and, I just, for some reason, it just seems so wrong to give 100% of my energy when I don't know that it's worth it in the audience's eyes. You know, it's like I sort of have to almost emotionally, I'm giving a tell at the beginning of, I don't know if this is funny either, but, you know, and, but then after I got it down, okay, now I can do this. Sometimes, but when I'm on a roll, when things are really happening, I can be making things up. I can be improvising, and I can put the energy and the focus behind it, you know, but if the laughter starts to die down, you know, my energy will too. I'm very much motivated by the laughter.
Yeah. I'm guessing positive feedback works better for you than negative.
You mean off stage?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, no.
No?
Because I'm so embarrassed by the positive feedback. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, no, you shouldn't, you know, I'll have a great show. People will compliment me and I'll be pissing on what they're saying. I'll be, you know, no, you know, it wasn't really, blah, blah, blah. I can't, I'm, you know, there's a reason. I believe that there's a reason for whatever limitations I've had in my career. It's all been self-imposed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my big thing lately is I think the key with Seinfeld and Seinfeld fascinates me. The older I get, the more I'm fascinated by the man. I think early on, he removed the concepts of limitations and judgment from his mind. Okay. So there was never a point, I don't think, where he said, I can go here, but not here.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't think he had that negative, critical, I'm awful voice up in his head. You know, I think a joke wouldn't work maybe, and you'll go, oh, I got to get that to work. He might be upset that it's not working, but I just don't think he had any of the emotional garbage, or if he did, he cleared it out.
Are we sure he's not part machine?
Huh?
Are we sure he's not half machine inside?
I believe that, you know, mentally he's a ninja. You know, he's just an absolute, you know, what do you call it? He's just got a very sharp mind. I think that's his power. His great power is how much he's in control.
Yeah. Wow.
Of his thinking and everything. So I'm still battling it, you know.
With no end in sight, right?
You know, I suppose in some regards it's my charm. That is my charm, but on the other hand,
I think that's part of it. Sure.
It gets tedious because I think people go, but you're good. Why would you have self-doubts when you're good? And it's like, you know, you got to get in, you know, there's a number of therapists.
Yeah.
Who you need to have a conversation with. They can explain it better than I can.
Right. Don't send me down that wormhole of worrying about why I'm worrying. Did I read, I think I read on your website, rossbennett.com, that you're recording this week?
Yes. I'm putting together a new CD.
You are?
I have a CD that came into my life so surreptitiously. Someone happened to throw a CD, recordable CD, into a recordable CD machine in like 2003.
Mm-hmm.
when I was working at a club in the Indianapolis area. That doesn't exist anymore. One-liners, and it was recorded all wrong. There was 2 tracks. One track was the line mic, the mic that I was speaking to on stage.
Yeah.
The other track was from a single microphone hanging over the audience. And it wasn't even a kind of microphone that's meant to gather a large swath of people.
I got you.
It's like this kind of a mic, which only has like a 5% or 10% angle. And so it's a 300-seat room, but it's really only recording the strong laughter of about 20 people.
Oh, no.
And it's on 2 separate tracks.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I took it and I mixed it. I went to a CD place, and we mixed it so it was a mono track.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we edited it from like 60 minutes down to about 42, 43 minutes. Broke it up into tracks because my key routines.
Mm-hmm.
And that CD has been gold for me. Sirius XM got it, and they started playing it on Blue Collar, and they started playing it on their Laugh USA.
Yes.
And it ends up, my material is really strong, and so they've played that a lot, and it's increased my visibility, and this thing costs nothing to make.
Awesome.
Nothing. So, you have a guy here in Minneapolis, Dan Schlissel, who has stand-up records,
Mm-hmm.
and he's made like 100 CDs.
Oh yeah, some of the biggest names.
And he and I started speaking a couple of years ago, and he wanted to make another one, and so that's what we're doing this week.
Perfect.
But the challenging thing is I'm now culling, because the thing is I'm not like Louis C.K. Louis C.K. writes an act, does it for the year, then throws it away, writes a new one. He's very, very proud of that, and as he should be.
Yeah.
And, but that's not who I am. I'm a guy, I'm more Springsteen. Okay? Where I've got
Born to Run.
I've got a book of material that I've developed over the course of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And, pretty much if you're going to go see Springsteen, you're probably going to hear Rosalita.
Yeah. Hopefully.
You're going to hear maybe Born in the... There's going to be a number of things that you're going to hear. Or John Cougar Mellencamp. You're going to hear 30 songs. 12 of them will be from the Little Pink Houses album.
Yep.
His one album that just went through the roof.
Yep.
And the other stuff will be the other stuff that you basically put up with. Okay, to hear that. Well, I mean, I've got this material that's the nuts and bolts of what I've done to make a living. And I have a tendency to feel compelled to always give a paying audience my best material.
Yeah.
Maybe 5-10 minutes is stuff that I'm working on.
Okay.
Okay. But so this week I'm trying to fit in all these other bits that have not been recorded before.
Yeah.
And to get them throughout the course of the week. So there'll be enough for a new CD.
Is any of the 20 minutes from last year here at Acme, Crash and Burn, will that be
a couple of things.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more too. I mean, I'm going through those notes and everything right now. But is your audience here mostly from the area?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things is here, you're so nice. The demeanor, the nature, the tone of people here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota is just so nice and good natured. I feel like it almost feels like a theme park. It feels like a theme park. And you're all characters, you're all employees at the Minneapolis theme park.
Interesting.
Which makes me think that there must be a break room someplace.
Where the truth comes out?
For every 15 minutes, every 3 hours, you can go there and be absolute jerks with each other.
Yeah. Talk shit about the outsiders.
That's exactly it. And then you got to go back out and be nice again.
Yeah.
These are some things I developed during Crash and Burn that I'm working, that I this one I use in my act all the time now. I don't talk about my age. I don't, a lot of comics these days are really into talking about how old they are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's because my generation of comics are getting older, but I believe it's a bit tedious. So I don't like to ever actually mention how old I am, but I will say this. I recently purchased a bed, and the bed came with a 20-year warranty. See? So while I was paying for the bed, I'm thinking to myself, this is probably going to be my deathbed. So I figured, what the heck? I'll go ahead and get the pillow top. I paid extra for the pillow top because I heard the last few years you often spend more time in bed, and you're a bit bony.
Yes.
A bit bony. So I got a number of things.
That's awesome.
That I'll be weaving in. You know, but like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen all these people come on the scene and become stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a fascinating thing to see. And you know, and Louis C.K. is a great example. He's just so creatively fertile. You know, so prolific.
Yeah.
In what he's been able to develop. And I admire it. I more or less just have to accept who I am, though.
Do you have a name picked out for the CD when it's eventually done?
No. What I'll probably do is, we'll wait and see how it shakes out and see, you know, probably, you know,
something will stand out.
Something will stand out.
Yeah. That'll work.
Name it, probably my deathbed. It'll be something like that, you know.
If you want my vote, yes. I say yes. I say go with that. I was telling you that we talked a bit. We had some lunch before we recorded. We were talking a bit, and
we had Reuben sandwiches.
Yes.
At the is it Sticks?
Sticks is the restaurant
at
here.
Sticks Restaurant here at the Acme Comedy Club off their lunch menu.
Yep.
And it was an interesting. It had a Minnesota feel to it because it was made on a dark bread.
Yeah.
As opposed to a New York Jewish rye.
Yeah. And this critique is coming from a Jew that lives in New York. Correct?
No, it's not.
No.
Because I'm not Jewish.
You're not Jewish.
And I'll probably do this routine this week also because people look at me and they assume I'm Jewish, like you did. They look at me and they assume I'm Jewish.
I swore that came up last time, but it must not have.
I've actually had. What'll happen is because I got Jewish friends who think I'm Jewish. You know, and what'll happen is they'll talk to me as if I'm Jewish, you know, and they'll go, Ross, you know, you wanna come over for, you know, whatever. And I'd say, you know, I'd love to come over and, you know, celebrate whatever the hell it is you're talking about. But, you need to know I'm not Jewish. And I actually have one friend, Lenny Marcus. He goes, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? But I have to tell people I'm not Jewish.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, then later, when Jews find out, they actually get angry.
I would imagine.
Because they feel deceived.
Yeah.
And when non-Jews find out, they get angry because they feel they've been unnecessarily tolerant. I'll be doing that bit tonight.
That's funny.
That's going to be on the CD.
That is funny, Ross. That is very funny. Well, I'm glad I made that mistake.
Yeah.
Because it led to that.
And of course, my whole thing is that I'm a New Yorker, but I'm not from New York City.
Right. I did know that.
That's the other thing is that I'm from the rural western part of New York State, about 5.5 hours west of New York City, 250 miles. The Finger Lake region, my hometown is Hornell, New York, a small town, just on the outskirts of a Walmart. But that's a big part of how I branded myself.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know, I
sure.
feel that what I'm selling is the fact that, you know, people have this vision of New York as being this city and they have no realization about the rest of New York State.
Right.
You know, if you go back to like the 1800s, the early 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, when people would talk about going out west,
mm-hmm.
they were talking about where I am from.
Oh, Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because when all it was the 13 colonies.
I suppose there was no
out
farther
west.
west. There was no farther west.
Was the Finger Lake region of New York.
Yeah.
You know, what was the biggest event that happened in terms of commerce in the first half of the 19th century was the Erie Canal.
Yeah.
Was putting a canal over the northern part of New York State. That was big thing.
Sure.
It changed the United States in terms of the ability of it being a prosperous nation.
Yeah. Amazing. I want to go back now. I was saying that when we first met up this morning, and I was saying, you asked like, what kind of things you want to talk about, and I told you that I love, because Andy Smith, who was part of the Crash and Burn last year, she described you as listening to you as like watching the History Channel. And when I brought that up to you, you have some strong thoughts on that.
Well, all I said was that it's a double-edged sword, because you want to be relevant to today and to an audience today, and I don't want to be someone, oh yeah, he's the one who talks about back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me. It's hard because I'll be around young comics. I love being around young comics, but they will speak about things that I have actual physical knowledge to, okay, that I was actually there, and they will speak about it and they don't have the facts straight. And my question I ask, do I need to tell that? Is it my job to straighten this out? And what's happening is as time goes on, I just let it go. I just let it go because I don't want that conversation. It's like there had to be a point. There had to be a point where people would say things about the Kennedy assassination. And Jackie for years would have said, no, that's not what happened. What happened was, and then finally she says, I just, the hell with it.
Whatever. Check the video.
If that's what they think Jack did, then God bless him, But, it's, some people are there.
Mm-hmm.
And, the question is, do I want to make that point?
Yeah. You mentioned, we got some of these great stories from you last time when you were on with Kostaki, and one of them, we don't need to go into it, but just here's an example that you were talking about you getting married on the stage at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And Sam Kinison. This is just a perfect example of how these names come up and you have a connection to them, and that Sam Kinison was supposed to, I have this from my memory.
He was going to be the minister.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is before he's a star. He's not a star. He's just a comic who's looking for stage time, and he had wormed his way into, like we all did, into the graces of Mitzi Shore.
Yeah.
And a very talented guy. And, but he had not become a star. He had not become a household name.
Yeah.
And he was going to officiate our wedding because we were putting together a comedy wedding. And he didn't show up. He wasn't around. I'm certain he was out, high.
Yeah.
As we got closer to the rehearsal. So I had to let him go. And I had a friend, an actor friend, who had one of those universal life ministries.
Yeah.
He apparently he knew how to fill out a form. But he was a sitcom actor.
Oh.
He was a sitcom actor. Nobody who you would know. If you look at his thing on IMDb, not a lot of stuff. But like many people in Los Angeles, a very talented actor who went out there, got some jobs, but didn't get a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote the ceremony. I took the ceremony as writ in as it officially is, the matrimony ceremony. And as a comic, I punched it up.
Sure.
Okay. I punched it up.
I
punched it up, great and great lines. And they're all based on reality. It's always important to me to have it somehow based in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Lines like, do you, Ross, look at Jan and, promise to love, honor, and obey, sickness and in health, forsaking all others, except of course when you're on the road. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he does the same line to her. and my head's kind of shaking proudly, and it's except of course when he's on the road.
Right.
Okay. And so great lines like that, in the face of, Mitzi, in the face of, talking about as we perform this ceremony in the face of this company, Mitzi and God. And I whisper in his ear, and then he goes, Mitzi, God, and this company. Okay.
That's great.
For those who might be listening, Mitzi Shore was the owner and the central source of power at the Comedy Store,
Pauly Shore's mom.
Pauly Shore's mom. And, so lines like that are based in reality.
Yeah.
And, I think we got a better thing having, my guy do it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because his name was, Charlie Murphy, not Charlie Murphy, not Eddie Murphy's brother,
Right,
but Charlie Murphy.
We know who that is.
And Charlie Murphy took the script and presented it as an actor. Whereas I'm certain Sam, as soon as he started doing it, he would have thrown the script away and started doing his whole screaming thing.
Yeah, you're right.
So the show would have been about him as opposed to about this event between Jan and I. So it was the perfect thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's better to have in the story that Sam was supposed to do it, but he didn't show up because he was stoned.
Yeah.
As opposed to, that.
Did you ever get a follow-up with him?
I remember him coming to the house.
With a present?
No. He came to the house, wondering, what's going on. I said, Sam, you weren't there for the rehearsal.
Uh-huh.
I had to replace you. And he was, that look of disappointment. I said, oh, okay. But he came to the wedding.
Oh, okay.
And I have a picture. I think there's a picture online. Might be a picture on my website of, with Sam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I didn't
at the wedding.
That.
Yeah.
All right. How about some current event here stuff? We just lost David Bowie.
It's so funny. I don't know why I say I often use phrases like that, which are not connected in any way other than it's a space filler.
A lot of people do.
I was not a big music person when I was growing up. Okay. I never bought a David Bowie record.
Okay.
I never bought a Who record. I bought George Carlin. Okay.
Were you ever buying Beatles when that stuff was
never when that was never at that time?
No.
Now later once I met Jan, the woman who became my wife, once I met Jan, she had pop records.
Okay.
Okay. So I became aware of it through her, but by this point I'm 23, 24, 25 and then some records are being bought, but I'm buying records, from previous, from 5-10 years before.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I don't listen. I never listened to, Abbey Road until like 1980.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard the songs on the radio a few times, but
Sure.
I was never connected to pop culture that way.
Okay.
I mean, I was in love with George Carlin and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the records that I bought. That's the stuff that I spent my time and money on. So I was never particularly connected to David Bowie. Okay. He never really, he didn't speak to me.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't, that wasn't really my world. I did feel for it when he passed away because Jan, my wife, she passed away, 30 years ago or 29 years ago now. She loved him.
Oh.
She had all of his records. She had spiky haircut like him.
Nice.
And she was very connected to that. So it made me think of her.
Oh.
And I'm fairly certain that if there's a heaven, she would have been right there, screaming when he arrived.
Sure. Oh, that's really neat. Wow.
It didn't.
I found it interesting how many people, my age 30s, 40s that had such a connection to him. And all these people writing about, I was a weirdo and he made me feel okay about it. Like, I wasn't a fan when I was a teen. Probably would have helped me, but I wasn't. I was listening to Weird Al and rap music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be more inclined to listen to, novelty songs.
Yeah.
As opposed to pops. The only pop songs I really liked when I would hear them, I tend to like ones that have a narrative story to them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to like, Johnny Cash, A Boy Named Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because there's a narrative story to it. I tend to like Marty Robbins' El Paso because there's a narrative story to it.
Yeah.
I tend to like Bruce Springsteen's Rosalita.
Yeah.
Because there's a narrative story to it.
Yeah. I get that.
I took my son to go see him about, I'm going to say 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When I think the first time he was touring with the E Street Band after having not been with them for like 10 years or so. And we got tickets up in Buffalo and we somehow traded up and we got seats right above Clarence. We're looking right down on Clarence.
Yeah.
So we're like right down on that part of the stage. And I had not listened to a lot of Bruce Springsteen over the years, but I knew it was important that Nash and I should go see this. And I had heard, when I finally heard Rosalita and I listened to it like 5 times in a row. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Cause there's that one line in it where he's like saying, you tell your father, I just got a record contract. That just point of just shouting out joy at his success. And I'm wondering, and he closed the concert. He closed the concert with that song.
With
and it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool. For me.
Now, if I remember correctly, when we talked, last year, you started comedy a little later than a lot of people.
I don't know. I don't think I necessarily started it later. I think that I'd always been, something resonated with me when I would listen to comedy growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was compelled by the thought of stand-up comedy, but being a Gentile boy from this little town in Western New York State, who your only connection to stand-up comedy is if there's a comic on the Ed Sullivan Show. You have to remember when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show, I wasn't watching to see the Beatles. I was watching to see, Alan and Rossi, the comedy team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found, interesting that night.
Wow.
I didn't really care about the Beatles. Okay. I want to see Marty Allen. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
So that's my only connection is what I would see on mainstream TV, which is all there was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was in the Army. I was actually at West Point. And while I'm there in my plebe year, 1975 to 76, Saturday Night Live came on, but I wasn't aware of Saturday Night Live because we couldn't watch TV during the plebe year.
Sure.
Okay. But then the beginning of my second year, we were allowed to go in the day room and watch some TV once in a while. And I saw Saturday Night Live. And I saw these people who are about my age, maybe a couple of years older, having the greatest time in the world.
Yeah.
And then this guy, Steve Martin, who was just so wow. And it was like, my God, how do you do this? How is it they get to do that?
Right.
Okay. How did that happen? And then that winter, Freddie Prinze passed away. He shot himself and he was like 1 year older than I was. And he'd become a stand-up comic and had this whole thing happen for him. And now he's gone. And I just had the sense, it's sort of a now or never thing. If I don't give this thing a shot, I'll never know.
Sure.
And if I stay at the academy, I'm going to have 2 more years at the academy. I'll owe the Army 5 years. That's 7 years. Okay. And when you're 22 years old, that's like a third of your life, another 7 years. And I didn't think that I would be able to just see it would ever happen that way. So I had to abandon everything to give this thing a shot.
How does that go over when you tell people in the Army you're leaving?
Well, first off, it was a big disappointment to my father, who was a Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel.
Oh.
And,
wow. Okay.
I mean, it was enough of a disappointment for him when I dropped out of my first college and enlisted in the Army. Okay.
Oh, okay. That's what happened.
That just jerked his chain but my father and I, like many fathers and sons, had massive issues between us that, you don't know how angry you are until after he's dead. And then you don't know how much you loved him underneath that anger until years after that.
Oh, okay.
But I've often said that I actually went to West Point because deep down I knew that when I left, it would crush him.
Oh, jeez.
But that's just a theory.
You're right.
I remember the tactical officer at our company, because the West Point's broken up into 4 regiments. Each regiment has 3 battalions, and each battalion has 3 companies.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And a company has maybe 100 to 120 cadets. At least that's the way it was when I was there. I think I have a smaller group of soldiers there, cadets there now.
Okay.
But, and you have a tactical officer, a guy who's like a major, a captain or a major in the military, in the Army, who is your tactical officer. He oversees the company. He's not in charge. The Corps is actually run by the cadets. So you have a company commander, you have a battalion commander, all the jobs are filled out by the cadets, but you have an Army officer who's overseeing the operation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, and I remember going into him and telling him I wanted to resign. And he goes, oh man, that's just, and you're exactly what we want here.
Hmm.
I'll never forget him saying that, which I can't believe that I was what they wanted there, but I think it ends up, they're not looking for cookie cutters. They're not looking for cookies that are just pressed out. They're looking for individual personalities and individual free-thinking individuals who are willing to work within the system.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. And so I probably offered that to him.
I could see that.
But, and I wonder if he had begged if I would have stayed.
Yeah. I mean, so there's no really second thoughts. It was, I'm doing this.
No, at that moment, when he said that, there was a moment of a second thought. I haven't even thought about this forever, almost 40 years.
Wow.
It's 76 now. So I resigned 39 years ago from like right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he had been a little more forthright, what would have happened, I remember when I started doing stand-up comedy about 2 years later, I'm working in Sacramento, California, and I had a couple of jokes about West Point and the like. And, this guy comes to me afterwards, he goes, "You're a very funny guy." And at this point I dyed my hair black, and it was sort of in a big sort of a rooster thing, kind of a thing. And I had sort of a punkish kind of an attitude. And this guy comes to me, he goes, "I spent, 20 years in the Army. I was a staff sergeant or a sergeant major or whatever." And he goes, "I want you to know you're a very funny guy, but I thank God that I never had to salute you as an officer."
Oh boy.
I said, "Okay." He goes, "No." He goes, "You don't understand. I thank God that I never had to salute you as an officer." So,
thank you.
Apparently, there are some people who had issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
With it, know? And, you asked, how do they react? They react the way they do. But I think the truth is they only want people who want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's,
yeah,
that's what it should be.
You only want people who want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
The class that I think, they allow you to leave anytime up until the beginning of your 3rd year, your junior year. And when I was there, they called it your cow year. you were plebes, yearlings, cows, and then firsties. That was the name of the different classes.
Okay.
And you didn't owe the Army time until you took your seats for your first class of your cow year, your third year.
Gotcha.
So up until that moment, you could say, I'm out of here. And you wouldn't owe them anything.
Okay.
But if you left after that, you would owe them like 3 years as an enlisted man.
Ah, okay.
Okay. And then if you go to graduation, after you graduate, you owe them 5 years as an officer. Okay. So, that's why I said when I resigned, I was looking at like, if I go any further, it's going to be 7 more years.
Yeah.
Okay. But the people I have the most respect for, was the class of, I forget what year it was. It would probably have been the class of 2002 or 2003, because 9/11 happened. Okay. 9/11 happens and they're yearlings. Okay. Now we go into this whole war in Iraq, everything that starts over in Afghanistan and everything. So now it's the summer of 2002. Okay, now these people did not go to the academy with the thoughts of getting involved in a shooting war.
True.
Okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when they took seats, when the class of, I guess it'd be 2004, when the class of 2004 took their seats in the fall of 2002, they were making a commitment to the knowledge that they were going to be, when they graduate, they're going into the shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They deserve a lot of respect.
And, it's like people who enlisted afterwards. I just have so much respect because they know what they're getting into.
I can't even imagine.
They know they're making a choice and that's what they want to do. My class of 79 never lost anybody in battle. Okay. I mean, they were probably senior officers over there. I don't believe they lost anybody in battle, at least up when I would keep track of things.
Sure.
But all the classes from 2002 on, or from the late 90s on.
Yeah. If
you look back over their class registers, they've got classmates who were lost in battle.
Sure.
Young lieutenants, 22, 23, 24.
Yeah.
Who come back to the academy not 5 years later for their first reunion, but 2 years later to be buried.
Yeah. Amazing. I remember back when I was 18 and those 17, 18, and those phone calls start coming, if it's not the letters in the mail to, for a college, hey, check us out. It's the guy from the Army recruiter calling. And, this is when I was 18, there's no caller ID. I didn't know who was calling on the other side. If I knew, I probably would have avoided it.
He's cold calling.
Yeah.
He's cold calling.
Cold calling.
That's
it all
right.
comes around there, Ross.
And he knows that about 1 out of 20 is going to
talk about full circle.
Is going to be willing to say yes.
Absolutely. And I had a barrage of excuses that my mom gave me. And boy, that guy had one right back at me for everything I said.
He's a good salesman.
Yeah. I didn't enlist. I went to college and then dropped out of college. But, no. Why don't you, who's going to pay for college then? Huh? You got a rich Uncle Larry? Well, no, my Uncle Larry.
You know my Uncle Larry?
I do have an Uncle Larry, but he's no, he works at a turkey farm. I don't think he makes a lot of money. Oh, then how about a grandparent? No, he was a farmer and he's retired. They don't have a lot of money. Oh, well, how are you going to do it? Look, man, my mom's not going to let me enlist. All right. I'm still listening to her. Really? How long are you going to listen to your mom?
Your mom's not going to let you enlist.
Yep. Is that the lamest?
Did he actually say that? Did he actually say, how long are you going to listen to her?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I'll never forget it. Sitting there in the living room, my parents, rotary phone. Oh, yeah. I can picture it well, and getting off the phone with that going, whew, jeez.
Dodge that.
Guy's not even in front of me, and I'm feeling pressured here.
You got to dodge the metaphorical bullet before you actually dodge the physical bullet.
Yeah, no shit. And one of them's a lot easier to do. No doubt about it. What else? I don't want to take up too much more of your time here, Ross. How much, anything else?
First off, I'm in Minneapolis. It's cold outside.
It is.
I got nothing going on until a show tonight at 8:00. So don't throw this thing out to me. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I got nothing
All right.
to do, Justin.
Fair
so
enough.
I'm here until you're ready to say, it's a wrap.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I do want to say, this is a good time to throw out there where you are on social media and how often you're active on there.
I'm not as active as I should be, but I have Facebook and Twitter,
Yeah.
as they all do, so it's at Ross Comic is Twitter,
Okay.
and I don't know, Ross Bennett Comedian. I got 2 Facebook accounts. One of them is the fan page,
Yeah.
and one of them is just me. And you can, if you go to, I don't know how you do it, but somehow if you put down Ross Bennett Facebook comedy, in Google, something's going to pop up.
Sure.
You'll be able to figure it out a lot quicker than I will.
You just
And
reminded
then I got a website,
Okay.
rossbennett.com,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I got that website is nothing short of a miracle,
Oh.
because I'd wanted it, and it was like owned by like a dentist or a guy with a shoe store or some such thing. And so I had rossbennettcomic.com.
Sure.
Okay. And I had rossbennett.net, but I didn't have rossbennett.com. And one day I just happened to type in rossbennett.com, and it was available. The guy had let it go.
Oh.
So I jump on it right then. I pay for it for the next 20 years.
Nice.
Right on top, right there.
Yeah.
Now, if you type in Ross Bennett, there's another Ross Bennett who is a successful clothing designer
Mm-hmm.
out of Texas.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. And I met him
Oh, really?
walking down the street of New York. I was going to the Comedy Cellar, and I'm walking down a street in New York, and the guy goes, Ross Bennett. I go, what? He goes, I'm Ross Bennett. So what? And it was that guy, and I have a very distinctive look, and so he recognized me because he had seen it, and I met the guy just bumped into each other.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, I have two retirement plans, one of which involves tremendous success for me,
Right.
and earning money for that. The other is tremendous success for you, that you want to buy my domain name.
Yes. And how is he doing?
I think he's doing well.
Yeah.
Haven't
Not
had any
that well.
inquiries. Haven't any inquiries.
Okay.
Do you know that like 20 years ago, someone bought beer.com for $77 million?
Wow.
When all those names started popping, when the domain industry started up, people just bought up every word they could possibly think of.
Sure.
And some of those people did very, very well.
Mm-hmm. And now they've got like they've run out of domains, and now it's like .xxx to get like they've run out of like porn site names, and now they're like .xxx. That's what you told me off the air, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and then I saw on your website as well, rossbennett.com, that has your calendar posted there.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I was more, some people they get it that they got to spend an hour working on their web every day,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't do it. But, it's a new website. I've gone to this new, development site, and, it's a cute site, I think. It's an okay site. What'd you find on it you wanted to know about?
Yeah. I went on remember I told you I listened to the last episode that you were on of NoLaughTrack.
Right.
So to find that, the easiest way I thought to find that was to write in a Google search, your name and then the name of the podcast. So I got to Ross Bennett and then the first 2 letters of NoLaughTrack. I got to know, and it auto-completed some choices to Ross Bennett colonoscopy. And then I clicked on that, and it went to stories about you.
It went to my actual colonoscopy.
What's the story there?
What? About the colonoscopy?
Yeah, was there some?
No, I don't know what the web thing was.
Yeah,
but I have a routine about a colonoscopy.
Yeah,
and it's so funny. I went to a club. I worked at a club that I hadn't worked at for 15 years, and the guy, as he was talking about all the older comics who were there. And basically, he mockingly talked about their colonoscopy bit because they all have like a colonoscopy bit, which made me embarrassed because I have a colonoscopy bit. And I happen to think mine is unique and it's special. Did not do it at that club that week. I'll tell you right now.
Sure. I bet.
But my whole one is, I mean this, is that I want to get people laughing about it who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. So when the doctor tells them it's time, they won't put it off.
Yeah.
Because there's some people who they get to the time and they just keep putting it off because of embarrassment, whatever. And so I figure if I can get people through laughter to go ahead and do it when the doctor tells them to do it, maybe in the course of my career, I can save a couple of lives.
You know what? I think that's more effective than the guys growing mustaches for the month of November. Because I think that's what the message is supposed to be for that, is for guys to go get, health care checkups. Because,
okay.
Like what you're saying, guys are known to put things off and, I'm fine and I'm invincible. Yeah.
What's the mustache thing?
It's called Movember. Movember. And you've never heard of this? Oh, yeah.
No.
It's huge here. I don't know, like the Minnesota Wild hockey team, like all the players grow mustaches, and a lot of like the radio station, personalities, they'll grow mustaches for the month.
What is Colon Awareness Month November?
It's not just colon, it's just like men's health. But that's,
okay.
Obviously one of the biggest tests that, men should have.
Isn't Mo a pejorative term for gays?
I don't know.
I think so.
Oh, I don't know.
It's an interesting use of terminology.
Yeah. Well, I will say, not to get too serious here, but my father he's alive, but he had colon cancer and had to have some of his colon removed about 5 years ago. So you're right, it is pretty damn important.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my wife to breast cancer, and so I'm always, that's my thing. Ladies, take care of yourself.
Sure.
Don't, if you think there's a problem, get your examinations. If you think you feel something, do something about it.
Yeah.
My current girlfriend, sweet lady, she lost her father to colon cancer about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And she gave me one of his ties. And anytime I work during a week, at some point during the week, I wear that tie.
Oh.
And it always makes me think of her, and it makes me think of this guy I never knew.
Wow.
It's a great tie.
Wow.
It's a great tie. It has porpoises on it. Little tiny porpoises. Very, very well designed.
Yeah.
But, the truth is this thing touches all of us so much.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has people in their lives. It's just a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. And if we're healthy, the older we get, the more we should just be grateful. But, that's why I have that bit.
Okay.
And I'll be doing that bit this week because that's never been recorded.
Oh, okay.
At least not on a CD.
Yeah. I think what I saw, then when I hit that link, it went to some YouTube videos where that must have been like the title somebody slapped on it. That was an odd thing to pop up when I'm searching for my own podcast. And then, colonoscopy, sure. What's this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's all I got, Ross.
Well, this is
we've hit the time that we usually wrap these things up, so we should probably do that.
Yeah, this is I just feel very I don't want to seem to be insincere, but I feel very fortunate to be here in Minneapolis. This stage, this is one of the most unique and special clubs in the country because you have an owner here who is who actively has a creative spark inside of him where he's trying to put creative talent, good talent on his stage.
He's involved.
He takes chances out. He goes out. Sometimes he goes outside the norm, to bring people, in here that might. And so I never thought that I would be working here, because at this point in my life, I just didn't think that I would, would I be what they wanted here?
Yeah.
I mean, I work on cruise ships, for God's sakes. But, I go out and work on cruise ships. I don't work on cruise ships all the time. It may 10, 12 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And I have people come up to me afterwards and go, you're not the kind of act we see on cruise ships, And so I know that what I do is different. It's special.
Yeah.
It's unique. And it's just really cool to have someone recognize it and to want me here.
Yeah, that's great.
And I will say, and last night it was a perfect example, the energy makes you want, as a comedian, makes you want to create, to take chances, to go outside of my act. Because that's, a lot of times you walk on stage and, it's like, I'm just, do your act, because that's what I'm being paid for, to do my act.
Right.
But I look out here and there's just so much, support that I'm willing to have the boundaries of my bits become porous and things just sort of start flowing out.
Perfect.
This side or that side, and so some real special stuff, happens.
Yeah.
Already has happened here. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the week.
We barely know each other, but I have to say I'm very happy for
Thanks,
you that this is
Justin.
happening. I really sincerely mean that. And I, of course, I agree with. I don't have the same perspective because I'm not a working comic. I'm just a huge fan. But I mean, this club is the best. I can't imagine.
If nothing, they have the best chairs.
Yeah,
those are the best chairs. We're doing this on stage at the club, looking out over an empty room.
Yeah.
Okay. The chairs. I'm sitting in one of the chairs. I've never sat in a comedy club chair that felt like this.
Yeah.
There was a club. I could tell you the name of the club. It was the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
The Funny Bone in Pittsburgh, which doesn't exist anymore. You see where this story is going. And, there's other Funny Bones around the country that he was one of the original owners. And when they divested themselves, when they broke up the company, he got like 3 clubs.
Yeah.
And one of them was Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So when I go to Pitt, and he had 3 different locations in Pittsburgh. And I worked at all 3 of them. His third location was just this big cavernous room, a giant cavernous room with a concrete floor. And the chairs were those plastic lawn chairs.
Oh my God.
Okay.
No.
Plastic lawn chairs. Now, you cannot move a plastic lawn chair without a screeching kind of a sound in a large cavernous room with a concrete floor. So no sound is being absorbed any place.
No, just bouncing around.
And, these chairs were probably about $7 each, and they're great because they stack.
Yeah. In bulk, they're probably less.
And I remember going to the club when he finally got to the 3rd location, and everything about it was set up to go against being a successful. I mean, it's like, it boggled my mind. It boggled my mind.
Yeah.
The stage had in the corner, the lighting came in such a way that the first 3 rows had as much light on them as the comedian. Okay. And I remember saying, and the sound, because of the cavernous floor, the concrete floor, the place just echoed.
Yeah.
It just echoed. This is a perfect room because it's what everything a comic wants. A low ceiling. Okay. So the laughter doesn't escape. See, the laughter will escape. You can kill in a cavernous room. The laughter escapes, but here it's all kept down. It's nice and low. And that place, it was just, and he had giant paintings on the wall that somebody had done of different comedians, famous comedians in various classic pictures. So like they had the famous Blue Boy picture, but it was with Adam Sandler's face, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
American Gothic with like Lily Tomlin and, Bob Newhart or whatever.
Sure.
They had a picture, they had the Last Supper picture. Jesus with the 12 disciples. And Jesus was Lenny Bruce.
Okay.
And all the others were various comedians, Leno apparently was in the Judas position completely by accident. And I believe Jay actually called him like, let's go. What do you got me in the Judas spot for? But the point being that all the Christians in town would come in and see this giant painting. We're talking about 20 feet by 40 feet painting.
Wow.
And for them, it was sacrilegious.
Right.
Yeah. And then in the bar area, what the guy did for a hobby is he took art photographs, nude art photographs. So you would go in and there's naked pictures of women, which is fine, but naked photographs of women all over the walls. Everything in this place
it's working
made it so people were going, I don't think I necessarily want to come back here.
Yeah. Completely working against themselves.
And then an improv opened up down the street.
Yeah.
And, then it was like, okay, that's it.
They only needed to be half decent.
So my point is, you got great chairs here. You got really great chairs.
Darn right. I don't disagree. And I will say, complete disclosure here, a few years ago, there were a few chairs in here where you would sink down and they could use some repair. Those are all gone now. Uh-huh.
Were they the same kind of chair?
Yes.
Oh, they were simply these chairs that had broken.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he takes great care of this place. It's a wonderful place.
Damn right. Ross?
Thank you, Justin.
Continued success, sir.
All right.
I think I have a feeling I'm going to see you here again next year. I have a strong
I like
feeling
the idea, but it's only Wednesday. Okay. Talk to me on Saturday after the show. Actually, talk me after the second show on Friday. If you read Steve Martin's book on stand-up, he has a line in it, and he said this before. People ask him, why did you get out of stand-up comedy? Why'd you stop doing live stand-up? And he goes, his answer was second show Friday.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.